There's something you know you should be doing, something important. But somehow, you keep putting it off. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, or when you feel ready, or when things are clear. But the truth is, it's not laziness. There's something else at work, something quieter, but far more powerful.
Wow, yeah.
Let's sit with that thought for a second. Welcome to this deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one. It's a heavy topic.
It really is. And, if you are listening to this right now, I want you to just picture the thing that popped into your head while those opening words were spoken.
Right, because we all have that one thing.
Exactly. Maybe it's a book you've been meaning to write for 5 years, or maybe it's a really difficult conversation you need to have to save a relationship.
Or, a business idea that is currently just sitting in a folder on your desktop.
Just gathering digital dust.
We all have that folder. I know I do.
We really do. And usually when we look at that folder or we think about that unfinished project, the immediate default reaction is, well, it's shame.
Yeah, we turn completely inward.
Right. We attack ourselves. We
Right.
say things like, I'm lazy, I lack discipline, I'm just, fundamentally disorganized.
But today, we're going to look at a stack of notes and passages centered around Steven Pressfield's book, The War of Art.
Yes. But I want to make something very clear to you right now. Our mission today is not to just give you a neat little summary of the book.
No, absolutely not. I mean, if we just summarize the chapters, we'd be doing you a huge disservice.
Exactly. Our mission today is to hold up a mirror.
Yeah.
We want to deeply, honestly explore this invisible, incredibly quiet, yet overwhelmingly destructive force that stops you from doing your most meaningful work.
And Pressfield calls this force resistance, with a capital R.
Resistance. And
Yeah.
understanding it, like truly dissecting how it operates in the shadows of your own mind, it just changes everything about how you view your own quote-unquote laziness.
Because it shifts the paradigm completely. I mean, think about what happens when you label yourself as lazy.
It becomes a character flaw, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
It becomes this permanent defect in your personality. But what we are going to unstool today is the profound realization that this feeling of being stuck is not a personality defect.
It's not just you.
Right. It is a concrete, active, identifiable enemy.
An enemy. Let's actually start right there,
Yeah.
because framing it as an enemy is a very specific choice.
It is.
What actually is resistance? I mean,
Right.
reading through the materials, it's described almost like a law of physics.
Yeah,
Like a repelling negative energy field that radiates from any work and potential.
I think the physics analogy is probably the most accurate way to understand it. Imagine you are holding two incredibly strong magnets,
Okay, I'm picturing it.
and you try to push the identical poles together. What happens?
You feel that like invisible physical pushback.
Right.
And the closer you get, the harder it pushes.
Exactly. You can't see the magnetic field, but you can undeniably feel its force.
Mm-hmm.
That is resistance.
Wow.
But here is the most crucial and frankly the most difficult distinction we have to make today. That magnetic pushback does not come from the outside.
Oof. And that is a bitter pill to swallow.
It really is.
Because it is so comforting to blame the periphery,
Of course it is. It protects our ego. You tell yourself, I can't sit down and write this code because my boss is micromanaging me.
He's draining my energy.
Or I can't start this nonprofit because the economy is too volatile right now. Or my partner just doesn't understand the demands of my creative process.
We externalize the block.
We do. But resistance is entirely 100% self-generated. It arises purely from within.
So it's all us.
Yeah. Pressfield describes it as the shadow of your own genius.
The shadow of your genius. I love that phrasing.
Right. If you think about it, every object illuminated by the sun casts a shadow.
Yeah.
And the brighter the light, the darker the shadow.
So resistance is the shadow cast by your inner calling.
Exactly.
But let me stop you there for a second. Because shadow makes it sound almost passive, like it's just this dark patch kind of following you around.
I see what you mean.
But the notes emphasize that this force is incredibly aggressive. It has characteristics.
Yes, it's very active.
It is invisible, it is insidious, and the word that really caught my eye was implacable.
Implacable.
Yeah, it's compared to the Terminator. Or the shark in Jaws.
That Jaws analogy is perfect. Think about the mechanics of the shark in Jaws. Does the shark hate Chief Brody?
No.
Does it have a vendetta against the town of Amity? No. It has absolutely no malice. but you also cannot reason with it.
Right, you can't sit on the edge of the boat and say, listen, I just need a couple of hours of peace to finish my dissertation.
So if you could swim away for a bit, that would be great.
Yeah, exactly. The shark operates like a biological machine programmed with one single objective.
And resistance is the exact same way.
Yes, its sole, unalterable objective is to prevent you from doing your work. If you reduce it to a single cell, it will still try to stop you.
And because it's like that shark, it is completely impersonal.
Extremely impersonal. I think this is a major trap we fall into. When we are stuck, we feel, I don't know, uniquely cursed.
Oh, for sure. We look at successful people and think, well, they don't have this problem.
My brain is just uniquely broken, or the universe specifically doesn't want me to succeed.
Which is, it's kind of a form of narcissism, in a way.
Right. Like, we're that special, but resistance doesn't care who you are. It doesn't know your name.
Nope. Doesn't care about your trauma or your IQ or your bank account.
It operates with the absolute indifference of rain. It just falls on you because you stepped outside.
That's a great way to put it. It's a universal law of the human condition. If you have a human body and a human mind, you will experience resistance. Full stop.
Period.
But knowing what it is, this internal, implacable, impersonal force, well, that isn't enough. We have to look at the mechanics of how it actually operates in your day-to-day life.
Because resistance isn't stupid.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It rarely walks up to you and says, hi, I am resistance and I am here to destroy your dreams.
No, it's a shapeshifter. It completely disguises itself.
And the most common, the absolute classic disguise that we all fall for,
Procrastination.
procrastination.
Yeah.
Because it is the easiest lie to swallow.
Exactly. When you are putting off a project, you never actually look in the mirror and say, I am permanently giving up on my symphony. I am throwing my dreams in the garbage.
You never say that.
What do you actually say? You say, I am absolutely going to write the greatest symphony ever written. I'm just going to start tomorrow.
Tomorrow I'll have a clearer head.
Right.
Tomorrow I'll have a better desk setup. Tomorrow I won't be so tired.
But I want to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
Because if I'm listening to this, I might be thinking, okay, but sometimes I do need a better desk setup.
Right, practical realities.
Yeah, like sometimes, isn't it just a genuine need to be prepared? You want to do a good job, so you need to set up the proper conditions for success.
That's the trap, though.
Well, I was reading this anecdote in our notes about Robert McKee, the legendary screenwriting teacher.
Oh, yes, the closet story.
Yeah. He talks about a time he was so blocked while writing that he obsessively sorted every single item of clothing he owned into seasons.
Spring casual, spring formal.
Winter, fall, and then he resorted them. Now, you could look at that and say, well, he's creating an orderly environment so his mind can be clear to write.
You could say that.
So how is that resistance? Isn't that just necessary preparation?
Let's look closely at the neurochemistry and the psychology of what is actually happening when Robert McKee is sorting his sweaters.
Okay, let's break it down.
You call it preparation, but the absolute genius of resistance is that it mimics productivity to fool you.
Mimics productivity. Wow.
Yeah. When you are sorting clothes or clearing out your inbox or alphabetizing your spice rack, your brain is actually releasing microdoses of dopamine.
So you feel like you're achieving something.
You feel a sense of accomplishment. You are active. You are, quote unquote, taking control of your life.
Right.
But what is the underlying mechanism? What are you actually doing? You're creating a socially acceptable, highly logical excuse to avoid the blank page.
Because the blank page doesn't guarantee dopamine.
Exactly. The blank page guarantees anxiety. It guarantees ambiguity.
That makes so much sense.
When you sort your winter coats, there is a clear beginning, middle, and end. You know exactly how to do it, and you know you won't fail.
But when you sit down to write a screenplay,
You might spend 4 hours bleeding onto the keyboard and end up with total garbage.
right.
So your brain, seeking safety, steers you toward the closet. Resistance will hand you 100 perfectly logical, highly productive, even necessary tasks to keep you away from the one task that actually matters to your soul.
Huh. Let me just think about that for a second.
It's a lot to process.
It is. So resistance isn't just like lying on the couch eating junk food and watching reality TV.
Not at all.
Resistance can look like a perfectly clean house. It can look like a zero inbox. It's whatever keeps you from the canvas.
Precisely. And honestly, the procrastination and the closet sorting, those are the benign forms of resistance.
Wait, it gets worse.
It gets much darker. Let me think about how to phrase this so it really lands.
Okay.
Resistance will also manufacture genuine suffering in your life just to keep you distracted.
Distraction and self-dramatization.
Yes. I want you, the listener, to think about your own life or your circle of friends.
I think we all know someone like this.
Right. Think about that person where there's constantly a soap opera playing out. Someone is always starting a fight, or there's a sudden manufactured financial crisis.
Or they are locked in chronic victimhood over something someone said to them 3 years ago.
Exactly. From the outside, you look at them and think, why is their life so chaotic?
Right, you just think they have bad luck.
But from the perspective of resistance, it makes perfect, terrifying sense.
How so?
Why put in years of hard, silent, isolated, unrecognized work to achieve something meaningful when you can get instant validation, instant sympathy, and instant attention by creating a crisis right now?
Oh, wow. That is heavy.
It's a very real phenomenon.
It's almost like a faux form of fame. If you are bustling around dealing with a massive dramatic fallout in your friend group, you are the center of attention.
You are needed.
And more importantly, you have a completely valid, bulletproof excuse for why you didn't work on your business plan today.
You are the hero of your own drama, but it is entirely a distraction.
That is just, it's wild how sneaky the brain is.
Even health issues, and we must tread very carefully here because physical illness is very real. But doctors have noted for decades that a significant percentage of medical visits have psychosomatic roots.
Like physical symptoms caused by psychological stress.
Yes, it's self-dramatization. A chronic, low-level condition becomes a cross to bear. It becomes your identity.
I am the person with this struggle.
Right. And that identity safely, comfortably, replaces the terrifying, vulnerable identity of the artist or the entrepreneur or the creator.
Okay, this actually connects directly to something in the notes that I found deeply uncomfortable when I first read it.
I think I know what you're going to say.
But the more I sit with it, the more I realize how insidious it is, and I really want to spend some time here.
Let's do it.
The healing trap.
Yes. This is perhaps the most controversial idea in Pressfield's philosophy.
It is. Because we live in a culture right now that absolutely champions therapy.
As we should.
Right. We are obsessed with processing trauma, doing quote-unquote the work on our inner child, and talking things out.
Mental health awareness is higher than ever.
Which is objectively a good thing. So if I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, wait a minute, are you saying that taking time to go to therapy and heal my trauma is a form of resistance?
It sounds dangerously close to toxic productivity, doesn't it?
Exactly. It sounds like just ignore your feelings and get to work.
It's a vital pushback. And the distinction is subtle but profound. Let's be absolutely clear. Real clinical healing is necessary.
If you have a broken leg, you go to the hospital.
If you have severe psychological trauma, you seek professional help. But resistance is incredibly clever.
Here comes the shape-shifting again.
Right. It doesn't just attack our weaknesses. It hijacks our highest virtues. It weaponizes our good intentions.
How does it weaponize healing?
Resistance will convince you that you must be 100% emotionally resolved, perfectly balanced, and totally free of all past baggage before you are allowed to begin your work.
Oh, I can't possibly write my screenplay until I've fully processed my complex relationship with my mother.
Exactly. I can't start this company until I've completely eradicated my imposter syndrome.
Which is impossible.
It is impossible.
Yeah.
Let's look at the mechanics of human nature. Ask any professional athlete. The day will never come when they wake up completely pain-free.
Right. If a professional football player waits for a Sunday where nothing aches, he will never play a single game.
You have to play hurt.
You have to play hurt.
I love that.
Yes. And emotionally, psychologically, the part of you that creates the deep, generative soul is far more resilient than your personal neuroses.
It's bulletproof.
In fact, doing the work, sitting down and painting the canvas or writing the code, might actually be the ultimate form of healing because it centers you in your own sovereignty.
Exactly. It proves to you that you have value beyond your trauma.
But resistance looks at therapy and says, oh, this is a great hiding place.
Keep digging into your past. Spend all your emotional energy excavating your childhood so you have absolutely zero juice left for the canvas today.
It turns healing into a permanent waiting room.
A permanent waiting room, yes.
That resonates so deeply. It's like you're standing on the dock, making sure every single rope on the boat is perfectly coiled.
Asking all your friends on the pier for emotional support.
Processing your fear of the ocean. But eventually you have to get on the boat and sail it alone.
Support is wonderful, but it is not legal tender in the sphere where the actual work gets done.
You can't pay the toll with your therapist's notes.
That is so well said. And if we fail to recognize these disguises, if we fall for the procrastination, the manufactured soap operas, the endless preparation, the permanent waiting room of healing, the consequences are severe.
It's not just that we miss a deadline.
No, it stunts our spirit, it corrupts us.
There is an observation in the text that literally stops you in your tracks when you read it.
The historical example.
Yeah, it's the ultimate terrifying example of what happens when resistance wins. It's about Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, this part's dark.
Before he was a dictator, before the atrocities, Hitler wanted to be an artist.
He moved to Vienna as a young man.
Right. He took his inheritance and he applied to the Academy of Fine Arts. He wanted to paint, but he couldn't do it.
Have you ever seen a painting by Adolf Hitler in a museum?
No, because resistance beat him.
Completely defeated him.
The author notes, and at first glance it sounds like a wild overstatement, but when you look at the psychology, it strikes a profound chord, that it was literally easier for Hitler to start World War II than it was for him to face a blank square of canvas.
Let's really unpack the weight of that. Why would that be true?
Facing a blank canvas means confronting who you truly are.
It means looking into the void of your own soul, recognizing your own inadequacy, your own potential, and pulling something original into existence.
The terror of that vulnerability.
The terror of true authentic creation was so immense, so unbearable to his ego, that he essentially chose the path of least resistance.
And the path of least resistance for him was projecting his internal chaos outward.
It was literally easier for a human bond to plunge the entire globe into darkness, hatred, and war than to sit alone in a room and face his own shadow.
It's chilling. It shows you the sheer destructive horsepower of this force we are talking about.
It's not just laziness. It is a profound existential dread.
Which naturally begs a massive question. We know what resistance is now.
We know it mimics productivity, it causes drama, it uses our traumas as shields.
But why? Why does human biology and psychology even have this mechanism?
That is the core question.
If resistance is so destructive, what is its purpose? Why does it target the things we care about the most?
Well, if we shift from looking at the symptoms to looking at the underlying mechanics, we transition perfectly into the targeting system of resistance.
It's targeting system.
Because it does not attack randomly. It is highly specific.
So it's not just blocking everything we do.
No. And once you understand how it targets, you can actually use it to your advantage. It acts as an infallible compass.
The rule of thumb.
Right. Imagine resistance as a magnetized needle floating in a dial, pointing unfailingly to true north.
But its true north is very specific.
Resistance only opposes in one direction, from a lower sphere of consciousness or existence to a higher one.
Okay, give me an example. How does that actually play out in real life?
Let's say you currently work at a noble, challenging nonprofit where you are making a real difference.
Okay, good work.
But you decide you are tired of the hard work, and you want to quit to go start a shady, borderline illegal telemarketing firm just to make easy cash.
Okay, quite the pivot.
You will feel zero resistance.
Really?
Zero. You won't procrastinate. You won't suddenly feel the need to sort your closet. You'll just do it.
Because you're stepping down.
Exactly. It'll be smooth sailing because you are moving from a higher moral and spiritual sphere to a lower one. Resistance doesn't care. But reverse it. Let's say you want to leave a comfortable corporate job to write a novel that exposes a difficult truth.
Or you want to launch an innovative venture that might change your industry.
Or you want to commit to a deep, vulnerable, lifelong relationship.
Moving from a lower sphere of comfort to a higher sphere of evolution.
Exactly. The moment you aim higher, resistance strikes with full, devastating force.
So it's a reaction to your own growth.
Yes. Therefore, by reverse engineering this, you can use resistance as a GPS.
That is so empowering.
The more fear, the more anxiety, the more procrastination you feel about a specific endeavor, the more mathematically certain you can be that that endeavor is absolutely vital to the evolution of your soul.
I want to pause here. I really want to dig into this fear aspect.
Okay, let's dig in.
Because the narrative we are always fed in self-help books, in seminars, on social media, is that we suffer from a quote-unquote fear of failure.
Right. Everyone talks about the fear of failure.
People say, I'm scared to start this podcast because nobody will listen and I'll fail.
It's a common excuse.
But reading through these materials and reflecting on how we actually behave, isn't the real terror actually about what happens if we succeed?
You are hitting on the deepest psychological mechanism in this entire framework.
What Pressfield calls the master fear.
Yes. On a surface level, sure, we fear bankruptcy, we fear looking ridiculous in front of our peers.
We fear wasting 5 years on a project that goes nowhere.
But those are manageable fears. We survive those every day. The ultimate fear, the mother of all fears, the root of the true terror, is that we actually can access the powers we secretly know we possess.
Wow. Let me think about how to phrase this.
Take your time.
It's terrifying because if you fail, you just go back to your normal life, right?
Exactly.
You get a pat on the back, people buy you a beer and say, hey, at least you tried.
The world makes sense. Your identity is intact.
But if you succeed...
If you succeed, everything changes.
Yeah.
If you embrace your true ideals, if you actually step into your authentic self and manifest your potential, you might become estranged from the world you currently inhabit.
You might outgrow the tribe you know.
Let's look at this through the lens of evolutionary biology.
Okay.
For hundreds of thousands of years, survival for a human being meant staying integrated with the tribe.
Because the tribe meant warmth, food, and protection from predators.
Exactly. If you stood out too much, if you acted differently, if you challenged the hierarchy, what happened?
You got exiled.
You were cast out. And being cast out of the tribe didn't just mean you were lonely.
It meant you died.
You starved or you were eaten. So encoded deeply in our DNA is a biological genetic terror of isolation.
We literally equate standing out with physical death.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you sit down to write your masterpiece, your primal brain is screaming, don't do this.
If you truly steer your ship, if you reach your promised land, you won't recognize your old friends and they won't recognize you.
You will be alone in the starry void.
So we self-sabotage to stay safe.
We do.
We literally choose a familiar, warm misery over an unknown, isolated glory.
This completely reframes the internal struggle, doesn't it?
It connects directly to this war described in the text, the war between the ego and the self.
Yes, those definitions are critical.
Let's unpack that dynamic, because I think it gives us the vocabulary to understand who is fighting whom inside our own heads.
It's a beautifully precise psychological model. We have to define these terms as Pressfield uses them.
Okay, let's start with the ego.
In this context, the ego is the part of your psyche that believes entirely in the material world.
It is the part of you that evolved to survive in the physical realm.
Therefore, it likes things exactly as they are. It seeks comfort. It cares immensely about status.
And above all else, it fears death.
Yes, it operates hierarchically.
Right. It's always looking around at the pecking order.
Who is above me? Who is below me? Where do I fit in?
What do people think of my car, my job, my social media following?
Exactly. The ego's entire existence depends on external validation from the hierarchy.
But then you have the other half of the equation.
The self?
With a capital S.
Yes. The self is the deeper soul. It is the seat of your dreams, your unconscious, your intuition, your connection to whatever you consider divine or infinite.
And the self does not give a damn about the material world.
It doesn't care about your mortgage or your Instagram likes.
Its only imperative is to evolve.
It wants to create, to connect, to grow. And naturally, the ego hates the self.
Because they're completely at odds. If the self evolves, if you step into your true power and stop caring about the hierarchy, the ego is essentially put out of business.
Precisely. The ego loses its control. So resistance is the weapon the ego uses to stop the self from evolving.
The ego deploys resistance to say, stay here, stay in your current job, don't write the book.
People will laugh at you. You'll lose your status in the hierarchy. It's safe here.
This brings in a distinction that I found so incredibly clarifying. It's the difference between operating as a hack versus an authentic artist.
A vital distinction.
And just to be clear to you, the listener, when we say artists, we don't just mean painters.
No, we mean entrepreneurs, parents, community leaders, software engineers, anyone attempting to do meaningful work.
Right. Artist is a state of action.
So the hack works hierarchically.
The hack is entirely controlled by the ego.
When they sit down to create, they look outward. They pander.
They ask, what will the market buy right now? What is trending? What will make the executives like me?
What will get the most engagement? The hack condescends to the audience.
And they do this because they are fundamentally terrified of being authentic.
If a hack writes what they truly believe and the hierarchy rejects it, they are devastated.
Because their entire identity is tied to the hierarchy's approval.
But the authentic artist operates completely differently.
They work territorially.
Yes. The concept of the territory versus the hierarchy.
Think of a coyote or a mountain lion on its home turf.
Or, to use a more human example, think of Arnold Schwarzenegger alone in a gym at 4 o'clock in the morning.
When Schwarzenegger is lifting weights in an empty gym, he is not doing it to impress anyone.
There is no audience. He doesn't need applause to lift the iron.
The sustenance, the psychological nourishment comes from the act itself.
The territory, the gym gives back exactly what you put into it.
The authentic artist does the work for its own sake.
The act of creation is the reward, regardless of whether the hierarchy applauds or boos.
You do the work because you are serving the evolution of yourself, serving something higher, not because you are trying to climb a corporate or social ladder.
It's pure intrinsic motivation.
But here is where it gets incredibly tricky.
Oh, yes, it does.
Let's say you manage to do that. You ignore the hierarchy, you focus on the territory,
You get in the zone, you are beating resistance day by day.
and your project is almost done. You would think it gets easier, right?
I would think so.
But there is a massive trap waiting, the danger at the finish line.
Oh, this is so crucial for anyone listening who has a graveyard of projects that are 90% finished.
The graveyard of nearly done.
Resistance hits the absolute hardest when the finish line is in sight.
There is this story in the notes, drawing from mythology, that perfectly illustrates this.
The Odysseus story.
Yeah, the story of Odysseus almost making it home. He's been fighting the Trojan War, he's been lost at sea for years, facing monsters, losing his men.
He's been through hell.
Finally, his ship is just off the coast of Ithaca, his homeland. He can literally see the smoke from the fires on the shore.
He is that close.
He thinks, I've made it. I have won. I am safe. So exhausted, he lies down on the deck to take a nap.
Big mistake.
Huge. And while he's sleeping, his men, driven by greed, open a leather bag that King Aeolus had given him.
Odysseus knew the bag contained the adverse winds,
But the men think it's filled with gold, so they untie it.
and the adverse winds burst out in a massive hurricane.
and blow the ship all the way back across the ocean. Years more of suffering right at the finish line.
It is the perfect tragic metaphor for the human creative process.
It really is.
When you are about to beat resistance, when you are writing the final chapter of the book, when you're doing the final bug testing on the software,
When you are on the eve of launching your business,
resistance hits the absolute panic button. It knows it is about to lose.
the ego realizes it is about to be transcended.
So it marshals one final, massive, desperate assault.
You will suddenly get a quote-unquote much better idea for a completely different project and convince yourself to abandon the current one.
Or you will pick a massive, relationship-ending fight with your partner.
Or you will decide, you know what, the first 3 chapters are all wrong. I need to scrap them and start over.
You open the bag of wind.
You open the bag of winds.
Because finishing the project means releasing it into the world, which triggers that ultimate fear we discussed.
The fear of success, the fear of judgment, the fear of standing alone.
You must be hypervigilant at the end. The final 10% requires 90% of your emotional fortitude.
Okay, let's take a breath.
Good idea.
We have stared the master fear in the face. We know that the ego is trying to keep us safely trapped in the hierarchy.
We know that resistance will fight us with procrastination, drama, and therapy traps, right up to the bitter end.
So, what is the solution? How do we actually defeat this?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because reading through all this philosophy, it becomes chillingly clear that there is no magical cure.
There's no fairy dust.
Right. There is no weekend retreat that will cure you of resistance forever.
It requires a cold, sober, almost brutal method of engagement.
We have to transition our identity from an amateur to what Pressfield calls turning pro.
That is the pivotal shift. The fundamental difference between the amateur and the professional is how they view fear.
The amateur believes that first, they must overcome their fear, and then they can do their work.
Right. Once I feel confident, I'll start.
Once my imposter syndrome is gone, I'll launch the podcast.
Once I'm not scared, I'll make the pitch.
I hear that, and honestly, I say that all the time, but I love this observation from the text Henry Fonda.
Oh, the stage actor.
Yes, widely considered one of the greatest stage and screen actors of his generation, he threw up in his dressing room before every single stage performance.
Even when he was 75 years old.
The fear never went away.
Never. Because the goal of the professional isn't to eliminate the fear. That is a fool's errand.
The goal is to act despite the fear.
You act while terrified. James Lipton, who hosted Inside the Actors Studio for years, interviewed hundreds of the greatest actors alive.
Right.
He used to ask them why they chose particular iconic roles. And almost universally the answer was because I was absolutely afraid of it.
The paralysis is the compass. We are back to the compass.
Yes. The terror tells you exactly what you have to do.
If you aren't afraid of the role, if you aren't afraid of the project, it's not worth doing.
It won't evolve your soul. So the professional accepts the fear, acknowledges the churning in their stomach, walks out on stage anyway, and does the job.
This is the absolute core of turning pro. It's the battle of discipline versus motivation.
Motivation is just a feeling.
Right. The amateur waits for the feeling of inspiration to strike.
They wake up and say, I'm just not in the mood today. The vibes are off. I'll write tomorrow.
But the pro treats their calling like a day job.
Think about this practically. You, the listener, you are very likely already a professional in your 9-to-5 job.
It's true. Most of us are highly functioning professionals.
You show up every day. You show up no matter what, even if you have a slight headache.
Even if it's raining, even if you had an argument with your spouse that morning.
You stay on the job all day. You don't over-identify with your job description.
Meaning, if your boss critiques a spreadsheet you made, you don't have an existential crisis and question your worth as a human being.
You just fix the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You do the job for the money, yes, but you accept the reality of the labor.
You don't expect it to be a spiritual revelation every Tuesday at 10 in the morning.
We had this lunch pail, hard hat, blue-collar mentality for building someone else's dream.
We do it for our corporate overlords without blinking.
But when it comes to the work of our own soul, our true calling, suddenly we become incredibly precious.
So true. Suddenly we demand perfect inspiration. We need the perfect lighting, the perfect playlist, the perfect mood.
The profound shift happens when we take that exact same blue-collar factory worker discipline and apply it to our art.
And doing that, practically speaking, requires a massive amount of psychological distance.
You have to separate yourself from the work.
Yes. The you ink concept.
I love this part.
I absolutely love this analogy because it gives you a mechanical tool to use when things get hard.
Yeah.
The idea is to metaphorically incorporate yourself.
You are no longer just John Doe taking a beating from the world.
You are John Doe, Incorporated. You are the employee, but you are also the boss. Let's break down how that actually works in practice.
It creates a healthy, functional detachment. Let's say you write a pilot script or you pitch a business idea to investors and it gets brutally rejected.
Ouch.
If you are operating as an amateur, your ego is crushed. You internalize it.
You say, they hated my script, therefore I am untalented, I am a failure, I should quit.
But if you are operating as me, Inc., you look at it objectively. You hold a board meeting in your head.
The boss talks to the employee.
Exactly. The boss says, okay, the employee went out and pitched the idea. The market rejected it. Good effort.
Now, let's reevaluate the market data, refine the pitch deck, train the employee a bit more, and send him back out there on Monday.
Do you see the difference? You distance your personal fragile ego from the inevitable rejection of the marketplace.
It allows you to take a beating, objectively analyze the feedback, and keep walking.
It strips the melodrama out of failure.
And stripping away that melodrama is what allows you to show up daily, which is where the magic, the actual tangible progress happens.
The mundane, unglamorous act of just sitting your body down in the chair.
Somerset Maugham, the great novelist, was once asked by an interviewer if he writes on a strict schedule or if he only writes when he is struck by inspiration.
I love his answer to this.
He replied, I write only when inspiration strikes. Fortunately, it strikes every morning at 9 o'clock sharp.
Because he forces it to. He doesn't negotiate with resistance.
He sits down at 9 a.m. regardless of how he feels, regardless of his motivation.
He creates the physical vessel for inspiration to fill.
There's a fantastic story about Pressfield himself in these notes back before he was a published author.
When he was living in his van.
Yeah, he was living in the back of his Chevy van, running away from his calling, working odd jobs, driving a cab. He had been avoiding his typewriter for months.
Just completely blocked.
Finally, one night, he hits absolute rock bottom. The pain of not writing becomes worse than the terror of writing.
So he drags out his Smith Corona typewriter.
He is dreading it. But for 2 hours, he makes himself sit there, he types, and what he types is absolute, unmitigated trash.
It is terrible.
He pulls the pages out and throws them directly into the garbage, but then he goes into the kitchen to wash 10 days' worth of dirty dishes.
And as he's washing the dishes, he realizes something.
He is whistling.
And why is he whistling? It certainly wasn't because he created a masterpiece that night. The art was terrible.
The victory wasn't the art. The victory was that for one single day, for 2 hours, he looked resistance in the eye and he beat it.
That is the deepest, most liberating truth of this entire philosophy. The victory is not in the quality of the output.
The victory is in the physical labor of beginning.
Because when you do that, when you bypass your ego, when you sit in the chair and simply commit to the physical act of starting, something deeply mysterious occurs.
This is where the notes pivot from pure psychology into almost a metaphysical realm, the concept of the muse.
And you don't have to be religious or spiritual to understand this.
Right.
Whether you want to call it angels, the muses of Greek mythology, the deep Jungian unconscious, or just the flow state of evolutionary biology.
There is a generative force that comes to our aid when we try to create.
But, and this is the absolute unbreakable rule of the universe, that force only comes to our aid after we have done the physical labor of sitting down and beginning.
The gods will not do the heavy lifting for you.
Never.
There is a quote by the poet William Blake in the text, "Eternity is in love with the creations of time."
It's a beautiful idea.
That the timeless universe, the infinite, takes joy in what we time-bound, mortal creatures bring into physical existence, but eternity has no hands.
It needs us to be the vessel.
It needs us to sit at the keyboard or pick up the paintbrush or make the difficult, terrifying phone call.
The angels are waiting in the wings, but they will not push you onto the stage.
They only meet you halfway once you've proven your dedication by fighting through the resistance yourself.
It is a profound realization of our own agency. You aren't alone in the work, but you are the absolute only one who can initiate it.
There is a magic in making a start.
The moment you commit, providence moves too. Unforeseen incidents, chance meetings, sudden insights, assistance you could never have planned for.
They all flow into your life, but they originate from that one simple, terrifying act of sitting down and facing the work. As we wrap this up, I want you to think about that thing you pictured at the very beginning of this deep dive.
That project, that conversation, that dream.
What if the massive amount of fear and resistance you are feeling toward it right now isn't a sign that you're on the wrong path or that you aren't ready?
What if it is the exact mathematical proof that you are finally on the right one?
What if your greatest enemy is actually your truest compass? If there's one thing to understand, it's that resistance doesn't go away. It shows up every time you move towards something that matters. And the difference between staying stuck and moving forward is not motivation. It's your willingness to act, even when resistance is there. So the question is, what have you been avoiding that you know you need to face?